Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. He was born on October 7, 1952 in Leningrad, USSR, now St. Petersburg, Russia. He was born as the third child when his parents were 41 years old. However, two older brothers died before Vladimir was born. Their eldest son, Albert, born in the 1930s, died at an early age. His second son, Victor, born in 1940, died of diphtheria and starvation during the siege of Leningrad by Nazi Germany in 1942. Therefore, Putin grew up as an only child. His father's name was Vladimir Spiridonovich Putin. He was a communist atheist who was very active in activism. He was drafted into the Soviet Union Navy and assigned to the submarine fleet in the 1930s. He served in the sabotage unit of the NKVD during World War II and was wounded in the German-Soviet War. And after the war he worked as a mechanical engineer in a railroad car factory in Leningrad. He was born in February 1911 and died in August 1999. Putin's mother's name was Maria Ivanovna Putina. She was a deeply religious Russian Orthodox who worked in factories. She was born in October 1911 and died in July 1998. Putin's paternal grandfather's name was Spiridon Ivanovich Putin. He was a professional cook and served at the villa of Joseph Stalin. Prior to that, he served Vladimir Lenin. He was born in December 1879 and died in March 1965. Putin's maternal grandmother was killed by the German occupiers of Tver region in 1941. When Putin was a boy, his family environment was not very affluent and his family lived in a shared apartment in Leningrad. When he was 7 years old, he learned a lesson from a fight with neighborhood kids in which he was beaten to a pulp. He learned a lesson when he was 7 years old, to fight back and to fight to the bitter end. He began attending an elementary school on the same street as the communal apartment in 1960. According to his elementary school teacher, Putin was like his mother, but he inherited his stubborn and hard-working nature from his father. He also had an excellent memory and a quick mind, but he was a troublemaker and prankster. However, his personality changed and his grades improved by the time he reached 6th grade. He also took up Samba and Judo at age 12. In his free time, he enjoyed reading books by Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, and Lenin. He then enrolled in a secondary technical school in chemistry after finishing elementary school. He studied German in high school. He was later posted to Germany as a KGB officer and is fluent in German. Eventually, Putin developed a fascination with spies after watching novels and movies, especially the French-produced Richard Sorge films. He then considered employment with the Soviet State Security Committee, the so-called KGB. When he was 14 years old and in the 9th grade, he visited the KGB branch. He asked the staff how he could get a job in the KGB. The officer responded to the boy's questions in a very genuine manner and gave him practical advice, such as that he should not contact the KGB on his own in the future because the KGB would never hire anyone who volunteered, that a law degree would be advantageous as a college major, that there should be no behavioral or ideological problems, and that his sports achievements would be an advantage in the selection of candidates for the program. The boy Putin thereafter followed the advice to the letter, devoted himself to judo, chose to study law at Leningrad University, and did not contact the KGB on his own during his studies. Then, when he was a senior in college, he was recruited by the KGB. He also won the All-Union Soviet University Championship in Samba while still in college. In 1975, when Putin was 23 years old, he graduated from Leningrad University and went to work for the KGB. Note that to be a KGB employee, Putin had to join the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, so he became a member of the Communist Party. He was assigned to the KGB, first to the Leningrad branch office and then, after training, to the Counterintelligence Service. After further training, he worked in Directorate General 1, i.e., the Leningrad branch of the Foreign Intelligence Service. In 1976, at the age of 24, Putin also won the judo competition in the city of Leningrad. He also took third place in the USSR. In July 1983, at the age of 30, he married Ludmila Shkrebneva, a former flight attendant and student of literature at Leningrad University. In 1984, at the age of 32, he studied at the KGB Red Flag University to perform intelligence work abroad. In April 1985, at the age of 33, his first daughter Marya was born. That same year he was sent to Dresden, East Germany. In August 1986, at the age of 34, his second daughter Katerina was born in Dresden. In East Germany, he served as an interpreter for the director of the Soviet-German Friendship Hall in Dresden, where he concealed his identity and supervised Soviet students. His duties at the Dresden branch of the KGB included gathering information on the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, and other political relations. He remained in East Germany until 1990. In early 1990, however, the reunification of East and West Germany brought him back to Leningrad. At this time, he apparently worked as a cab driver to earn income. He then went to work at his alma mater, Leningrad University, as an assistant to the rector. It was during this time that he became acquainted with Anatoly Sobchak, a former professor who had taught him when he was a university student. In May of the same year, Putin became an advisor on international relations to Sobchak, then chairman of the Leningrad City Soviet. He did not leave the Communist Party until its dissolution in August 1991. In June 1991, Sobchak was elected mayor of Leningrad. On June 28, 1991, Putin became chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations in the mayor's office, responsible for international relations and the promotion of foreign investment and registration of business ventures. On August 20, 1991, at the age of 38, Putin resigned from the KGB with the rank of lieutenant colonel. It is said that this was because he did not agree with the coup against Gorbachev and did not want to be part of the new regime's intelligence apparatus. In November, the city of Leningrad was renamed St. Petersburg. In 1992, at the age of 40, Putin was incorporated into the reserves and, by convention, moved up one rank to colonel in the reserves. In May of the same year, Putin was appointed deputy mayor of St. Petersburg at the age of 40 by Sobchak. In March 1994, at the age of 42, he was appointed first deputy mayor of St. Petersburg. As an official of the city of St. Petersburg, he worked to attract foreign companies to the city and to promote foreign investment. He was known as the Grey Cardinal because he was a behind-the-scenes force under Sobchak. In May 1995, at the age of 43, Putin organized the St. Petersburg branch of the pro-government Our Home Russia Party. This was the party founded by Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin. In 1995 he managed that party's legislative election campaign. He was also the leader of its St. Petersburg branch from 1995 to June 1997. In August 1996, Sobchak stepped down after losing the St. Petersburg mayoral election to Vladimir Yakovlev. At the age of 44, Putin accordingly resigned as first deputy mayor. He was offered some consolation by the new mayor, Yakovlev, but he ultimately rejected it. He was later transferred to Moscow as Deputy Director General of the General Affairs Department of the Russian Presidential Administration after being selected by Pavel Borodin, Director General of the General Affairs Department of the Russian Presidential Administration. In this position, Putin was in charge of legal affairs and state foreign property, as well as the transfer and management of former Communist Party assets to the Russian Federation. On March 26, 1997, at the age of 45, he was appointed deputy head of the Russian Presidential Administration and General Director of Supervision. On June 27 of the same year, Putin presented his thesis, Strategic Planning of Regional Resources in the Transition to a Market Economy, at the St. Petersburg State Mining University under the leadership of Reverend Vladimir Litvinenko. This exemplified the Russian practice of young up-and-coming officials writing their studies in mid-career. This dissertation earned him the degree of Associate Doctor of Economic Sciences. The thesis was about bringing abundant resources under state control and using them for Russia's domestic and foreign policies. In 1997, Sobchak had lost the mayoral election the previous year and was suspected of embezzling state property. To save his former teacher, Putin faked a heart attack and admitted him to the hospital. Sobchak then fled the country in a private plane that Putin had apparently arranged. A few weeks later, Sobchak appeared in Paris in good health. Putin's loyalty earned him a reputation in the Kremlin. On May 25, 1998, at the age of 46, Putin was appointed first deputy head of the Russian Presidential Administration. Here he was in charge of regional administration and served as a liaison with the regional governors. He later recalled this position as the most interesting job I ever had. On July 25 of the same year, President Yeltsin appointed Putin as head of the Russian Federal Security Service, FSB, the main intelligence and security organization of the Russian Federation and successor to the KGB. At that time, he unseated Prosecutor General Yuri Skuratov, who was investigating then-President Yeltsin's money laundering scandal, over a women's scandal. He also prevented Prime Minister Yevgeny Primakov from ousting Yeltsin and staging a coup. This achievement earned Putin the trust of Yeltsin. In March 1999, Putin assumed the posts of Director General of the FSB and Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation. President Yeltsin had been seeking a loyal successor because of his health problems and, moreover, because of allegations of massive corruption. However, until then there had been no suitable successor, and the prime minister had been replaced by 4 different prime ministers. Putin was then given the white feather. President Yeltsin wanted Putin to be president, but in order to do so, Putin had to win the election. However, Putin was not a household name, so a biography was hastily published. On August 9, 1999, at the age of 47, Putin was appointed first deputy prime minister by Yeltsin. On the same day, Prime Minister Sergei Stepashin was dismissed, and Putin was appointed acting prime minister. Another week later, on August 16, he was officially appointed prime minister by parliamentary approval. In the fall of the same year, apartment bombings occurred in Moscow and other cities. The number of victims reached into the hundreds. Putin attributed the incident to terrorism by Chechen militants, whose independence movement continues. He then used his shrewdness in suppressing the Second Chechen conflict, enhancing his image as a strong leader and winning the support of the people. Putin had not been a household name before, but this one incident quickly made him known to the public. At the time, Putin's leading opponent in the upcoming presidential election was former Prime Minister Yevgeny Primakov. On December 19 of the same year, however, the number of seats won by Putin's ruling party, Unity, exceeded that of Fatherland All Russia, which was formed by Primakov and others, and became the second largest party after the Communist Party of the Russian Federation in the Russian lower house election. This brought Putin even closer to becoming the next president. Primakov later decided not to run in the next presidential election. On December 31 of the same year, President Yeltsin announced his retirement for health reasons. In 1999, at the age of 48, Putin became acting president under the Russian constitution. His first act as acting president was to sign a presidential decree ensuring that charges of corruption against the outgoing president and his relatives would not be pursued. This presidential decree led to the dropping, on August 30 of the same year, of a criminal investigation in which Putin was one of the suspects when he was a city official in St. Petersburg. The 2000 presidential election was initially expected to take place in June or July before Yeltsin resigned. Since Russian law required that elections be scheduled 3 months after the removal of the presidency, the election was to be held on March 26, 2000. In February of the same year, Putin's mentor, Sobchak, passed away. And so, on March 26, 2000, at the age of 48, Putin was elected without a decisive vote, receiving a majority of the votes cast in the Russian Federation presidential election. On May 7 of the same year, he officially became the second president of the Russian Federation. His goal was to rebuild strong Russia. First, he instituted a policy of strengthening the authority of the central government, since the central government had lost control over the local governments, with local governments promulgating laws that were inconsistent with the central government's legal system. He established 7 federal districts, divided into 85 regions across Russia, and made the governor of each region supervised by a plenipotentiary of the president. Other policies he implemented included prohibiting governors from serving concurrently as senators and granting the president the power to dismiss governors. Through these policies, Putin promoted centralization and established a system known as the vertical governance structure. When Putin visited Japan in September, the Kodokan offered to present him with the honorary rank of 6th Dan in judo. However, he replied, "I am a judoka, so I know the weight of the 6th degree belt well. I would like to return to Russia to continue my studies and work hard so that I can wear this belt as soon as possible." In December of the same year, the lyrics of the Soviet Union's national anthem were changed and established as Russia's new national anthem. Some say that this was done to evoke to the Russian people the Soviet Union in the days of its strength. The strong leadership seen in these policies was criticized by the opposition as heavy-handed, but was supported by the Russian public. In October 2002, at the age of 50, the Moscow theater hostage crisis occurred. Putin deployed special forces to rescue the hostages, but 130 hostages died. However, more than 80% of Russians said they were satisfied. Russia's economy was hit hard by the Russian financial crisis in August 1998, but it recovered and continued to grow, which was another factor in the support of many Russians for Vladimir Putin. Economic growth is largely due to higher oil prices. However, it can also be attributed to the various economic reforms implemented under Putin's administration. Putin reformed the tax system by changing the income tax rate from a 3-tier system to a flat tax system with a flat rate of 13%, and by lowering the corporate income tax and value-added tax. These tax reforms reduced rampant tax evasion and contributed to the restoration of state finances. These tax reforms and the development of the legal system, including the liberalization of land sales, attracted foreign investment and revitalized the Russian economy. The Yeltsin presidency was the era of Yeltsin and his entourage and support base, the nascent oligarch conglomerates. The rapid capitalization by Igor Gaidar and Anatoly Chubai was confusing. In this situation, in the process of capitalization of state-owned enterprises, the emerging oligarch conglomerates were born from the private ownership of those managers for free. Oligarchs became cozy with the Yeltsin administration and began to privatize state-owned property other than their own companies, either by buying it or selling it for free. They also increased their political influence by controlling the mass media. Such collusion led to corruption, and the oligarchs' avoidance of paying taxes caused a crisis in state finances that led to the collapse of the military and an orgy of government debt that caused a financial crisis. This led to hyperinflation, hitting mainly pensioners and widening economic disparities among the population. However, when Putin became president, he promoted Silovikis, officials from the security and defense ministries and those from the police and military, began cracking down on oligarch tax evasion in order to restore public finances, and confronted the oligarchs with conglomerates. Oligarchs attacked Putin with the media they owned. In response, Putin arrested and suppressed oligarchs such as Vladimir Guzinsky, an independent media figure, and Mikhail Khodorkovsky, president of the oil and gas company Yukos, in an investigation of tax evasion and embezzlement. In 2003, after Khodorkovsky's arrest, Yukos went bankrupt in August 2006 due to additional tax evasion. In 2007, Yukos assets were auctioned off at below market prices, with state-owned Rosneft acquiring the largest stake. This approach was supported by the Russian public, which was dissatisfied with the enormous concentration of wealth in the hands of oligarchs. Putin made peace with the corporations to which he had pledged allegiance and allowed them to control the media. Putin eliminated corporate political intervention, forced reverent oligarchs to pay taxes, and rebuilt state finances and the Russian military, which was on the verge of collapse. He then relegated the right-wing coalition and other oligarch-affiliated parties to a minority and established himself in power with the support of the ruling party, United Russia, which was formed by the merger of Unity and Fatherland and All Russia. Putin distanced himself from politicians in Putin's government who were considered to have close ties to oligarchs, such as Mikhail Kasyanov, who initially served as prime minister. Instead, they heavily recruited people from St. Petersburg, a hometown of Siloviki and Putin. However, oligarchs like the Rotenberg brothers, who were personally close to Putin, were given preferential treatment, including bailouts. In 2003, a referendum was held in Chechnya and a new constitution was adopted declaring that the Chechen Republic was part of Russia. However, sporadic attacks by rebel groups continued to occur throughout the northern Caucasus. In the Iraq War that broke out that same year, Russia opposed the war and distanced itself from the United States. On March 14, 2004, at the age of 53, Putin was re-elected president of the Russian Federation with an overwhelming 70% or more of the vote. In September of the same year, the Beslan school occupation took place, killing more than 330 people, including 186 children. The incident prompted Putin to further centralize power and strengthen presidential authority by changing the system of appointing regional governors from direct election to appointment by the president, citing the need for national unity in Russia. The Russian economy continued to grow at a real GDP growth rate in the 6 to 8% per year range from 2004 to 2007 as oil prices soared. However, much of this growth was dependent on energy resources. In July 2005, at the age of 54, Putin signed a federal law establishing special economic zones as centers for manufacturing and high-tech industries in order to correct the economic structure and achieve greater economic development. In December of the same year, 6 special economic zones were established. During the 8 years of Putin's administration, the Russian economy has grown significantly out of the crisis and has received high support and recognition from Russian society. GDP increased sixfold, poverty was reduced by less than half, average monthly wages increased from $80 to $640, and real GDP increased 150%. Also in 2005, the Russian government paid off its debt from the IMF, International Monetary Fund. In 2006, the debt from the Paris Club was also paid off, stabilizing the Russian economy and restoring its international credibility. In October 2005, Putin launched the Priority National Projects by presidential decree because, although the economy had recovered, many Russian citizens were still living below the minimum standard of living and the population was declining due to high mortality rates. The plan aims to improve social infrastructure and living standards through reforms in 4 areas: health, education, housing construction, and agriculture. In the area of health, the plan includes childcare support and an increase in the salaries of doctors and nurses. In the education sector, Plans included the establishment of new universities and scholarship programs. In the housing sector, plans included expanding the scale of mortgage loans and providing financing for housing construction. In the agricultural sector, plans were made to guarantee housing for young agricultural specialists. In November of the same year, he appointed Dmitry Medvedev, Secretary of the Presidential Administration, as first Deputy Prime Minister to promote this project. In December 2005, Putin became honorary president of the European Judo Federation. He also later became honorary president of the IJF, International Judo Federation. In January 2006, it announced that it would raise natural gas prices to Ukraine, which had come to value its relationship with the US more than with Russia as a result of the Orange Revolution that occurred in 2004. When Ukraine refused, the company took hardline measures, such as reducing natural gas flows to Ukraine, causing the Russian-Ukrainian gas conflict. In April 2007, former President Boris Yeltsin passed away. In April 2007, Putin, who had strongly opposed the eastern expansion of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, expanding its membership to include Eastern European countries and former Soviet Union countries, announced that he would suspend the implementation of the European Convention on Conventional Armed Forces because NATO countries had not ratified it, which sets limits on the deployment of conventional weapons by European countries. Since the Constitution of the Russian Federation prohibits the President of the Russian Federation from being elected 3 times in a row, his departure from the presidency has been the focus of much attention. In October 2007, at the age of 56, Putin expressed his willingness to remain in politics by assuming the position of Prime Minister after stepping down as President at the Party Congress of the ruling United Russia Party. In December of the same year, he was listed first on United Russia's proportional representation list for the lower house elections, leading to the party's election victory. He nominated First Deputy Prime Minister Medvedev as his successor and announced that he would support him in the 2008 presidential election for the Russian Federation. In 2007, Putin was named Person of the Year by the American news magazine Time, which once a year selects the only person in the world who has had the greatest impact on the events of the year. In 2008, Putin was reportedly in a relationship with gymnastics gold medalist, Alina Kabayeva. In February 2008, Putin announced his development strategy to 2020, indicating that he would remain in politics even after stepping down as president. In this context, he spoke of the need to transition from an energy resource-dependent economy to an innovation-driven economy and the need to achieve human capital accumulation for this transition through educational reforms and improved welfare programs. In March, Medvedev, whom Putin supported, won the presidential election with more than 70% of the vote. In April, at the United Russia Party Congress, Putin accepted the party's leadership. That same month, Putin received the Ludwig Nobel Prize. In May, at the age of 57, Putin stepped down as president and became leader of the United Russia Party the same day. He was named prime minister by newly elected President Medvedev, who became prime minister the next day. Although his appointment as prime minister brought him into a twin-headed system with Medvedev, Putin was seen as exercising influence as the de facto supreme authority even after he stepped down from the presidency. In the same month, Putin established a government executive council chaired by the prime minister. This is the de facto supreme decision-making body, which includes not only the deputy prime minister, but also the foreign and defense ministers under the president's jurisdiction. In addition, the presidential plenipotentiary of the federal district, which had been instituted in 2000, lost its representative status and became a consultant position to the prime minister, and the regional governors, who had been converted to appointees by the president, were made national officials and placed under the jurisdiction of the prime minister. In August 2008, in response to Georgia's attack on South Ossetia, the country's autonomous region, Putin sent Russian troops to intervene militarily in South Ossetia the following day in support of South Ossetia's independence. In November, President Medvedev delivered his annual report speech, in which he proposed extending the presidential term from 4 to 6 years. As a result, theories of Putin's return to the presidency began to circulate. In December, Putin did not make a clear statement on the theory of his return to the presidency, saying at a town meeting with citizens that we will know in 2012. In 2009, he made his strongest indication yet that he would run in the 2012 presidential election for the Russian Federation. Despite Russia's economic crisis, Putin's popularity among voters was enormous and he continued to reign supreme in the political arena. In January 2010, between 9,000 and 12,000 people rallied against Putin in Kaliningrad. In December 2010, at the age of 58, Putin ordered the replacement of computer software used by the Russian government with Linux and other free software by 2015. This is said to be an attempt to break away from the current dependence on Microsoft, an American company, for computer software. In September 2011, at the age of 58, Putin announced his candidacy for the 2012 presidential election of the Russian Federation at the United Russia Party Congress in Moscow. In December of the same year, at the age of 59, tens of thousands of Russians protested against alleged election fraud after the lower house elections. This was the largest protest in Putin's time. Protesters criticized Putin and a united Russia and demanded that the election results be annulled. These protests provoked fears of a color revolution in society. It was also around this time that Putin began to distance himself from United Russia Party, of which he formed and heads the All-Russian People's Front. It is believed that his strategy is to effectively give up on the United Russia Party in order to win over other pro-government parties and the people who support him, and to secure his power and improve his image as the leader of the people. In March 2012, Putin won the Russian Federation presidential election with approximately 63% of the vote. In April, he announced his intention to resign as head of the United Russia Party following his inauguration as president. In May 2012, at the age of 59, he became the fourth president of the Russian Federation. Due to a constitutional amendment in 2008, the term of office of the President of the Russian Federation became 6 years from this term, so his term will expire in 2018. In June 2013, Putin announced on state television that he had divorced his wife Lyudmila. In June 2013, Putin announced on state television that he had divorced his wife Lyudmila. In 2013, he was ranked number 1 in the world in Forbes' annual year-end ranking of the world's most influential people by the world-renowned economic magazine Forbes. This continued through 2016, making him the world's most influential person for 4 consecutive years. In February 2014, the Winter Olympics were held in Sochi, Russia. In March 2014, Russia carried out an attack on Ukrainian territory. Russia took control of the Crimean Peninsula. Subsequently, Crimea and Sevastopol were annexed to Russia after a referendum that took place on the Crimean Peninsula. In recent years, economic growth has been declining due to economic sanctions from the US in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea and Sevastopol, and the country has faced strong opposition from the public over pension system reform. In September 2015, Putin approved Russia's military intervention in the Syrian civil war, following a formal request from the Syrian government for military support against rebel and jihadist groups. In the same year, a son was born to Putin and Kabayeva. On December 6, 2017, at the age of 65, he announced his intention to run in the 2018 Russian Federation presidential election scheduled to take place the following year. In 2017, President Putin's calendar, commonly known as the Putin calendar, became the #1 selling celebrity calendar in the world. In March 2018, Putin won the Russian Federation presidential election with 76% of the vote, with his term expiring in 2024. In the same month, the hypersonic Avangard missile was developed and deployed in the Russian military in November. In June, the World Cup soccer tournament was held in Russia. In 2018, for the second year in a row, the Putin calendar became the world's #1 selling celebrity calendar in the world. In 2019, Putin and Kabayeva had their second son. In January 2020, at the age of 67, Putin announced in his annual State of the Union address that he intends to transfer some presidential powers to parliament and to strengthen the authority of the State Council. This was also speculated to be a move to retain power beyond 2024, when he will step down as president. This enhanced authority would also allow him to continue to hold power, which has raised concerns among the opposition parties in the country. In December 2020, at the age of 68, Putin attempted to amend the constitution. He signed an amendment guaranteeing the right of presidential ex-presidents to be free from prosecution for the rest of their lives, in response to the provision in the proposed revised constitution granting immunity from arrest to those who have served as president. Previously, only acts committed while in office were eligible for immunity. This is seen as a move to prepare for his own departure from office. It also includes the provision that he can run for president twice more in further presidential elections, since his previous presidential tenure does not count. In April 2021, the Constitution was amended by referendum with the approval of the people. This would allow Putin to hold the presidency until 2036. In February 2022, at age 69, Putin authorized a special military operation aimed at demilitarizing Ukraine, with Russian forces launching a full-scale offensive. As a result, his positions as honorary president of the International Judo Federation, IJF, and honorary president of the European Judo Union, EJU, were revoked. He was also stripped of his honorary 9th degree black belt awarded by World Taekwondo. In 2022, After May, Putin is likely to temporarily entrust the command of military operations to Nikolai Patrushev due to stomach cancer surgery. Although he is often criticized as ruthless and crude because of his background, he is extremely popular among the Russian people because of his very gentlemanly attitude that he promotes through the media in Russia. It is well known that he is fluent in German because he was sent to East Germany during his KGB days, but during his presidential term he began studying English in earnest, and can now be seen conversing in English with heads of state and government. He also delivered a speech in English at the 2007 General Assembly of the International Olympic Committee to promote the Sochi Olympics. Historical figures he admires are Peter I and Ekaterina II. Foreign statesmen of interest include Napoleon Bonaparte, Charles de Gaulle, and Ludwig Erhard. He is known as a person who is late for important meetings on numerous occasions. These include meetings with the Pope, German Chancellor Merkel, U.S. Secretary of State John Forbes Kerry, South Korean President Park Geun-hye, and Ukrainian President Yanukovych. He may also be intentionally late. He enjoys fishing and is a fan of horse racing. He does not smoke and rarely drinks alcohol. Putin swims 2 kilometers in the pool every morning, followed by weightlifting. Then he has lunch and gets to work. He is also a dog lover and has a Labrador retriever himself. Her dog is named Connie, and she once stayed up all night to take care of a baby she was giving birth to. In 2012, he received a female Akita dog from Japan and named her Yumi, meaning dream. Putin has practiced judo and sambo since the age of 11, and holds the rank of 8th dan in judo. He is a Russian Federation sport master in sambo and judo. He admires the Japanese judoka Jigoro Kano, Yasuhiro Yamashita, and Sunshiro Sagata. His judo teacher was Anatoly Lavrin, vice president of the Russian Judo Federation, who passed away in 2013.